See? We try to project the consciousness through the ego when what we want to do is project ego through consciousness. We want the consciousness that we are to be the director, the guiding force in our life. Now, ego is very necessary. Ego is that which kind of sorts and catalogs and informs and takes things in for us to understand. It's like, I kind of see ego as that which has command of the Rolodex of the mind. It goes through and it figures out and it remembers and it pulls something up. But the ego likes to believe that if something is in any way similar to anything we've experienced previously, it must be the same. And it immediately goes into reactive posturing, doesn't it? And sometimes it goes into that reactive posturing before we've even realized it's there, or we're there. It's just jumping out because it senses or it feels that there is something to protect, and what it needs to protect is itself. And it's standing, and it's positioning. Because how many of us grew up as we were forming that individuated awareness of ourselves, hearing, oh, that's stupid. Why would you even think that? Oh, that's just outrageous. You can't do that. What are you thinking? Why would you think that you could even accomplish that? What's wrong with you? How many of you grew up hearing, what's right with you? None of us grew up hearing what's right with you. What's wrong with you? How many of you grew up hearing, oh, that's just stupid? How many of you grew up hearing, don't think that? How many of you grew up hearing, oh, you shouldn't feel that, don't feel that? My word, we have facilitators to personal growth today telling us that our feelings aren't the truth of what we think we're feeling. I watched a facilitator online processing an Israeli woman in a country that has been torn by war for a very, very long time. The woman says, I'm afraid of war. The facilitator says, is that the truth? Now, when you feel something, do you know you feel it? Do you know what you're feeling?
Yes.
Now, I understand that we can work through those feelings. We can say, why am I feeling this? Why is this feeling here? But the fact remains that that feeling is a genuine response to a situation at that particular time. We were raised denying our feelings. Why would we want to deny our feelings when we finally become aware of what it is we're feeling? Most people can't even name their feelings. They become so separated from them. They're calling emotional responses to situations feelings. Emotions are the energy of our feelings in motion. For example, loss is the feeling. Grief is the emotion. Grief is how we express the feeling of loss. When someone passes, makes their transition, you feel loss. Now, I know that in the consciousness we've never left, we're never separated, that that person is still with me, they've simply transitioned into another state of being, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But the fact of the matter remains is that person has been someone instrumental in your life through who you learned with, who you loved with, who you worked with, who you played with, who you experienced with, that you had a close association with, and you will feel for a time an absence when they leave. And that is honest. That is real. Now, if you allow it to plunge you into the deepest, darkest pit of depression where you think you need to take your own life to follow them over to the other side, then we need to look at that. Now you are identifying not only through loss, but as loss. Is this making sense?
Yes.
If I were living in a country that was torn by war, and I heard sirens going off day in and day out, and I had witnessed the people I loved being killed and their houses being bombed, and I didn't have anywhere to go to be safe when I knew the bombs were coming, I would feel fear. The questions are, would I let my fear paralyze me? Would I let my fear convince me that I had no other alternatives than the ones that seem apparently possible for me at that time? Would I question my fear? Would I challenge my fear? Would I look at the best way to move beyond my fear? Would I look at how I can transform that fear? Would I stand courageously in that fear? Would I allow that fear to become my good ally, that through which I am strengthened? Because there can be no transformation in denial. The way through is still the way in. We've got to go in. Understanding. Get thee first understanding. Now, you all know I'm not a religionist. I obviously, as you can see by now, have a different view of God. But I do believe that all the ancient sacred books hold jewels of truth. They are stepping stones to where we have arrived today. We cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to glean these texts. We want to see what is still truth and abiding today. With all thy getting, get thee first understanding. If we deny something, if we say that our feelings aren't true for that moment, we are denying ourselves understanding. We are denying ourselves growth. We are avoiding the difficult work of going in and challenging ourselves to move from where we are to where we know we can be. So we've heard this all our lives. Is it any wonder that we find it most comfortable to stay where we are? What we're not noticing, though, is that the uncomfortable has become our comfort zone. The uncomfortable has become our comfort zone.